Mr. President, sir, with all due respect, life in Kenya is becoming unbearable. The cost of power is going up significantly. People cannot run businesses efficiently, effectively, with low cost and be able to make a living when the price of power for any business is 20 shillings and above. People are paying huge amounts of money towards electricity, and it is drawing down their income and it is making them losses. These expenses are directly leading to inflation because cost of fuel, cost of electricity directly leads to increased inflation in other things, from food to other supplies that Kenyans actually need. Instead of maintaining the status quo, why don't you do this? I'm going to give you for free a good power plan that is going to see Kenya not only reduce the cost of power, not only become green as a grid, but be able to reduce the expenses that the operating company KPLC is undertaking. As a company, we are shackled towards bad management, bad grid planning, and bad policies as regards to our power. But we don't need to do all these things. And this is the plan. The first thing that you need to do is net metering effectively, immediately, for all businesses that consume most of their power during the day. This policy has always been talked about. You have always had discussions on this. It has always been with various committees, but it has never been implemented. Businesses that consume most of their power during the day, factories, hotels, schools, hospitals that have most of their businesses during the day should be allowed to have net metering. That is, they have solar panels on their roofs, generate their own power, have their own inverter that is grid tied. Again, this is something that can be able to be done, and this is something that can be able to significantly reduce the cost of power for businesses that operate during the day, industries, schools, hospitals, hotels, and businesses that could be able to reduce the cost of power down and are going to see themselves get into profitability. So how is this going to work? Again, businesses, 2, that operate most of their operations are during the day. 3, have enough roof area, can be able to put in some of the power back into the grid, and should be able to have a kilowatt to kilowatt, or at least a 70% net metering impact. That is, if they give 100 watts to the grid, then they can only be able to claim 70 kilowatts from the operating company KPLC. That way KPLC can use the 30 watts, the 30 kilowatts, and be able to use it as some of the operating expenses for having this net metering policy. The company can be able to generate significantly a lot of power freely and can be able to reduce this cost of power significantly. Businesses will grow, they're going to thrive, Kenyans are going to enjoy cheaper services, and everyone will be a lot happier. The national operating company KPLC will not struggle as much because people are going to use as much power as they are giving to the grid. They are going to use a lot more for their own. Then you will be able to hear somebody say, are they not going to make losses? They're not going to make losses, because if they're going to get 30% of the power that is generated for free from these companies, and they can be able to do it, and it has been done in many countries, then they will be able to reduce their own expenses by themselves. So that is the first policy, net metering. Not for everyone. Businesses that operate mostly during the day have enough capacity to be able to produce significant amount of power and can be able to offset against their own bills. Some of them may be able to reduce significantly the expenses of electricity by up to 50%. I was shocked to realize there was this person who was doing a dairy business. And let me give you context. They are doing a dairy business and they are processing their own cheese, they are processing their own milk, they are making their own yogurts, they are making their own mala. Their electrical bill accounts to more than 50% of their total cost. So all their dairy products have 50% charge just being electricity. Just think about it. Milk and milk products are food that Kenyans can be able to use. If you're going to reduce that cost by at least 50%, then the off taker will be able to have 20% or more reduction in their expenses. So why should a dairy farm that is operating during the day have additional costs and pass the same cost to the farmer, to the person who is consuming? Again, because their cost of power goes down, they can be able to pay the farmer who is supplying this dairy with, they're going to give them a better price because again, their cost of operations is slightly lower. When the farmer gets a little bit more money, money trickles down the drain. And if you're talking about a bottom-up approach, then the people at the bottom are able to get some funds and some money directly. You don't need to give handouts. You just need to ensure that there's some money that is trickling down to the person who is down in the bottom of the pyramid in the economic cycle. Then the other thing that you need to do is take all the energy that comes from expensive sources, the thermal sources, the diesel generators. Go and issue a carbon trading mechanism and a price for the international market. People in Europe and abroad and companies are buying carbon credits. Some of them are struggling to get good carbon credits. Why? Because most of them are attached to forests. Forest that is hard to be able to measure whether a forest is getting and sequestering all this carbon that it claims to, and whether this forest will exist for a longer period of time. Some actually fund such projects and pay for such carbon credits only for the trees to be cut down later. But the Kenyan government has a name. Kenyan government has statistics. It has this number of thermal generators. They generate this amount of carbon, and it is known and it is easy to calculate. You can say the Kenya government wants to close down these thermal generators because, again, they are the ones that bring the highest cost to consumers. They are the most expensive sources of power. And because some of these contracts are negotiated without due process, some of them end up conflicting and strangling the cost of power and causing it to go up. So close them down, issue bonds, so you're not taking money from the Kenyan government taxpayers' money to pay off individuals. You take and say that you're going to issue carbon credits, sell them to the international market and to companies at a certain price, and the money that you receive, you pay off all the thermal generators and close down shop. So we no longer have a grid that is supported by diesel generators that are expensive, they are dirty, they are causing a lot of pollution in the air and a lot of circulatory issues for kids around those thermal generators. So you close them down, you pay off the people. So you're not telling them not paying them off. You pay them off, they close, and then your grid now is clean. So now when your grid is clean, what do you do? And you're going to go to the next step. So now you've closed all the thermal generators, all the diesel generators that produce power for Kenya Power. The cost of power goes down significantly for everyone, not just businesses. Now you're starting to really make value for money for Kenyan businesses. Remember, Kenya as an economy is competing against many companies, and this is the time to make a killing because people are moving their businesses from China because of politics, and this is the time that Africa takes advantage, and not just Africa, Kenya. Why? Cost of power is going down. We have seen Ethiopia, even with all these challenges, we have seen it be able to have and attract a lot of international businesses. A lot of international businesses are setting up in Ethiopia, despite its political challenges. Why? The cost of power is very low. So why don't you make Kenya very low in terms of cost of power? Close the thermal generators. Then the other thing is use your power in a strategic manner. Yes, just using your power in a strategic manner will going to reduce the wastage of power and reduce the cost of power. We have a lot of thermal sources of energy, geothermal sources of energy. Geothermal sources of energy are significantly stable, they are significantly known, they are not as intermittent as solar and wind. So how do you use them? Take them as a base load. The average power that is produced is always coming from the geothermal sources because they are known, they are defined, they are specific, they will always be there for a significant of time, they are not variable. So that becomes your new base load. Because you've removed the thermals, then geothermal becomes your new base load. You may need to increase additional investments, and we have seen a lot of interest in exploring geothermal. Let us take advantage of that to increase our geothermals from foreign investment, again not money from our pocket, so that we can be able to increase the share of geothermal, which has been good for the grid in Kenya. And because this geothermal is generated through the government KenGen, the cost of power from KenGen is very low. So again, the cost of power becomes low because you're exploring even cheaper sources of power. Then the other thing is now hydros. How do you use hydros? Use them significantly. Use them as a battery. Don't just release all the hydro as is. In fact, use them as a battery and only use them when all these other sources have dwindled. So only use them because of such a situation. So they act as a battery. So every hydro acts as a battery. You're not just releasing water unnecessarily, but you're using it as a battery, unless there's any flooding control that you need to do on the downflow of the rivers. So use this hydro significant in a strategic way to be able to help the grid. Then the other thing is come up with a way of being able to use power from other countries, connect to other power from other countries. And this is how Europeans do it. So if one country overproduces power, it does not lose all this power. It sends to the next neighboring country that is struggling. So we have a grid that is going through East Africa, that if Kenya overproduces power, it can be able to send to Ethiopia and can be able to acquire to Ethiopia. And they can have net metering kind of situations where we only net against each other. So we are selling, you're buying, and you have a common price that you are selling at the same price, you're buying at the same price, and you're only paying when you are overusing other people's power. This is something that you'll be able to do strategically. So when you have excess power, you move to another country, you evacuate the power to another country. Then you're able to use your own power as much as you can and use others when you don't have enough power. You don't have to do significantly a lot of things. Then the fourth and final thing that you can be able to do, Mr. President, is have our grid in Kenya is around 3 gigawatt of power. That is our capacity. So why don't you do 10% of power that is done in storage facilities? We have seen lithium battery solutions being done in South Africa, southwest of Australia. That can be able to support a grid, because remember, because of the intermittent nature of solar, again we are very blessed with solar because we have more than 320 days of sun, 8 hours a day, a lot of sun. But our biggest challenge is majority of our consumption is around 6 in the evening and around 10 at night. That is when a lot of use is used by the people who have households. How do you get all this power that is generated during the day to be used in the next 4 hours after the sun has set? Then you come up with 10% or 300 megawatt battery storage placed in specific situations and places around the country. One could be near Turkana so that it can store as much of the Turkana power that is coming, so that you do not waste wind power that is generated. Another one could be placed near Garissa, near the big solar panels and station that has been created there. So any excess can be able to be put there. Another one could be put in Kisumu, because Kisumu has been struggling with power because it is not well connected to the other grid and gets most of its power from Uganda. But you can be able to have some power being kept there because Kisumu and the Western region needs to have also a strategic power policy, and that can come into the form of just one of the 300 megawatt batteries being set up there. Another one could be in Kisumu, in Mombasa. Another one could be in Nairobi, so that this excess power that is coming from solar can be wheeled. Basically, you are taking where it is being produced and able to push it for the next 3 hours. So again, that your grid does not spike, so that consumption goes up during the day, goes down during the production goes up during the day, goes down during the 4 hours that we are talking about, that you have some power that is moved and is able to be transitioned to the next 4 hours, so that you will not feel the need to have thermal or diesel generators being able to bridge the gap. Again, these 4 hours can be used. Remember, we are saying hydro acts like a battery. So hydro can be able to release some of its water, so they can be able to produce some power to supplement the grid in the 4 hours that we are talking about. So hydro only now operates for 4 hours every day after sunset. That is how you make advantage of all these sources of power. Again, Kenya is blessed. We have geothermal, we have wind, we have solar, we have many resources. Let us take advantage of these resources and use them, because the greatest person or the greatest country is a country that uses its natural resources and is able to reduce on any amount of power that they have to import, and is able to reduce on any cost that can be able to be avoided and be able to grow its economy. I hope that you have heard of my plea, because the cost of power is driving business and homes into poverty. Thank you. Enjoy your day.